Welcome to Spiritually United Paradox, literally language of the heart speaker gathering. All our speakers are shared on our WhatsApp audio groups and our speaker channels. The links will be dropped in the chat. If you're listening to this recording and need help, we have a way that works. Please reach out by email at connect@sipx.world and the crew will reach out and get back to you. Each week we go from the doctor's opinion to page 164, we read a paragraph. And today we are on Bill's story and we're going to read paragraph 1, 2, and 3. And I'll now hand you over to Andrew I from Anchorage, Alaska, who's come to share for the next 45 to 50 minutes. Over to you, brother.
All right, thank you, Joey. Andrew, alcoholic, and it's good to be here and be sober. Welcome to the new people who are in the room, and it's good morning from Alaska. It's 9:30 a.m. here, and it's just getting started with my day. So, it's always fun to get on a meeting any time of day or night. So I'm pumped. I'm going to read your passage or our passage from the Big Book from Bill's story, page 1. War fever ran high in the New England town to which we new young officers from Plattsburgh were assigned, and we were flattered when the first citizens took us to their homes, making us feel heroic. Here was love, applause, war, moments sublime, with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last, and in the midst of the excitement, I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudices of my people concerning drink. In time, we sailed for over there. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. We landed in England. I visited Winchester Cathedral, much moved. I wandered outside. My attention was caught by a doggerel on an old tombstone. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good soldier is never forgot, whether he dies by musket or by pot. Ominous warning, which I failed to heed. I Just so you get the stats out of the way, I'm sober since October 26th of 1997. I have a sponsor. His name's Brad Z. I'm sponsored. I sponsor lots of guys. I have a home group. My home group is the Glacier Group in Anchorage, Alaska. So, if you're in town, I'm sure it's close to most of you, no problem. Stop on into the Glacier Group. Let me know if you're coming to town. We'll take care of you. It's a very welcoming meeting. We have a greeting line as you come in. The greeter, the greeters are going to greet you. You're going to get a hug. You're going to get some love. You're going to get coffee. Sit down. Good speaker meeting. Anyway, that's me. I'll be hopefully visiting you all where you all live here one of these days. I'll be in France in let's see, March. But other than that, I don't really have any other plans. I should try to scoot on over to some of your necks of the world. It seems like there's a solid bunch of sickos like me, so alcoholics and addicts. So that'll be good. I'd love to come see you all, and to go visit the old tombstone and the cathedral. To go do that little AA tour in England. That would be a kick. But anyway, I'm I guess the ask here is that I tell my story. Joey sort of just said do whatever you want to do, which is never a good thing to tell me. So I'm just going to tell my story. Uh, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I mean, I understand this is a cocaine anonymous meeting, and I know that's fairly wide open. But I want to warn you guys that I'm going to talk a little bit about meth. It's not exactly cocaine. I'm just kidding. I'm I grew up in the West Coast, and I had I mean, a good a family as you could have, right? I had a parents who loved me to death, and they were young, and my dad was a Marine, and we grew up in Texas, and then we moved to Washington. We moved around a little bit, and everything was fine. I mean, my childhood was fine. I didn't think about it much, like any kid. I just was like, wanted to go do what I wanted to do and have fun and play outside. I mean, just everything was fine. And then, we moved quite a bit around, obviously, with my dad being in the military. And then we landed in Eugene, Oregon in seventh grade, and it was a new school. And I don't even know that this had anything to do with anything, but I just, I was getting to that, like, puberty point in life where things are changing and I'm changing. and I'm a new kid at the school and I don't know anybody. And it was a little weird. It was a little bit disconcerting. And I don't know that this set the tone, but when a couple of guys came up to me and introduced themselves and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got friends now. And then, one of them wanted to go drinking and I hadn't drank before, but I had been listening to some rap music, which I largely blame for my alcoholism. It was Easy E, Ice T, N.W.A., Two Live Crew, Too Short. I mean, these are like, if you've ever listened to any of this stuff, I mean, you can understand that it's, I could certainly blame it for when I asked for a 40 ounce or an Old English 800, and that's what I went and drank. That was my first drink. So here I am, this white kid from Eugene, Oregon, but I got my inner, gangster from Compton drinking a 40 at Bond Lane Park. I'm like, mildly prepubescent 13-year-old, just think I'm hard, so hard, drinking my 40 ouncer. But I gotta tell you, it changed me. It changed the way I felt. It changed my perception of reality because I drank that thing and I felt like $1 million. I felt like I could dance. I felt like, I'd go to the school dance when I was sober and ask a girl to dance and she'd say no and I'd just be devastated and I'm never going to ask a girl to dance again and I can't stand the rejection. And then I drink that 40 ounce or Old English 800, and I wasn't at the dance. I was at Bond Lane Park. But if I knew that if I went there and asked a girl to dance and she said no, I'd just feel sorry for her, you know, because who wouldn't want to dance with me? I'm a different person. I'm like feeling like I could, fight like Mike Tyson. I could do anything. That's what alcohol did for me. And alcohol doesn't do that for like everybody. Alcohol does that for, I mean, yeah, it gives you that, that nice lubrication, that social ease and comfort that comes from taking a few drinks. Sure, everybody gets that. But what happens is people like my mother, who's not an alcoholic, she has a few drinks and she starts to feel out of control. And that's the difference between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic, is she actually gets to the point where she's feeling like, okay, you know, something's going to happen. I'm feeling out of control. And she'll just put it down. Even if it's like a glass of wine, it's half drank, there's still wine left doesn't matter. She gets to that point, she pushes it away. My dad is the same way. Me, on the other hand, I get to that point. I mean, I get 3, 4, 5 drinks in me and I'm ready to go. I get 6 or 7 drinks in me. I'm ready to go out on the town. I get 12 in me. I'm ready to drive. That's when I feel like I drive my best is with, 12 drinks in me. I get, more than that, and I'm ready to fight. About the time that I shouldn't be picking fights with people is right when it starts. That's right when the mouth starts to go. And so, I've had my nose broken quite a few times because of that. I think some of us might relate to that. But that was my life, and we listened to our rap music and we drink our 40s and life was good. And I had a paper route. Some of you young folk might not know what that is, but that's when you actually deliver newspapers door to door at the butt crack of dawn. It's painful to get up and do it, but I mean, I was always a hard worker and I always had a job and I always was able to buy alcohol. But for some reason, it seemed like a fun and a good idea to start breaking into cars. So I was up anyway. And my buddies would come with me and we'd start breaking into cars and stealing stuff. So we got busted for that. And somehow, I guess that's what happened when you steal all your neighbors' crap out of their cars. And so I spent my freshman year of high school in basically every weekend in Skipworth Juvenile Penitentiary for that. I already had felonies in ninth grade. Already, I don't know if that was necessarily a consequence of my drinking, but it was a consequence of my alcoholism because I wasn't raised like that. I wasn't raised. I was raised with good morals and good value. And my parents, I mean, my dad draws a hard line on principle. He just does. And that's how I was raised. But was I doing that? No. Sophomore year, I'm buying alcohol for everybody. We got parties, we're having fun. I'm at this point in time, I'm drinking, I've moved on to hard rock and I'm drinking Budweiser by the, case, and we're building beer bongs and having fun and going camping and being out in the woods and just having an absolute blast, driver's license and having the time of my life. I mean, even if today, I'll tell you, I loved high school. I just loved it. I just I love college. I love drinking. I love the party. I love the bars. I mean, there's nothing about it that I would go back and, alcohol is not the enemy, alcoholism is, and that's what I have. I have alcoholism. And what that means is when I put alcohol in my body, I can't control the amount that I take. It tastes like more. I put alcohol in my body and I have no ability to stop or control the amount that I'm going to be drinking. And that's just the way it is for me. But the real crux of the problem is when drinking, I'll stop for whatever reason, I'll go to jail, I'll go to a treatment center, whatever, or I'll try to stop on my own, but I'll always pick up a drink again. And that's the problem. It is the sober insanity that the first step is talking about in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is when I'm sober, I make decisions and I have no ability to differentiate the true from the false. And that's not even when I'm drinking, that's when I'm sober. I mean, for me, I've crossed that line now in high school. I'm sure of it. I'm drinking every day. I'm my just before my junior year, I was out just before my senior year. I'm sorry, my parents took me to treatment. So I'm what, 17 years old, go into treatment. I ran away from treatment, lost my fake ID, which I worked very hard to get, and honestly had a number of felonies for falsifying government documents and selling them by this time. Lost my fake ID, ran away from treatment, ran away from home, and I'm 17, so it's not like my parents really, they're almost relieved that I'm not there because I'm, just drunk every day. Still playing all the sports, still play football, baseball, track, I mean, that's the only thing that kept me in school and allowed me to have, any kind of like, functionality in life. But I was staying at my buddy Troy's house and out in Coburg, Oregon, and his dad's an alcoholic. I could diagnose him as an alcoholic. His cupboards have Canadian Mist, half gallon. So one morning, Troy and I woke up and we're drinking, and 17 years old, and for breakfast, we're drinking Canadian Mist, which is just whiskey, cheap Canadian whiskey. And we're pretty well down on the bottle. I mean, we're getting low on this bottle. I mean, we're pretty drunk. We call our buddy Eric. We're like, Eric, come on over here, buddy. We want to go ride horses, and listen, we don't never rode horses before, but you know how you get drunk and like you just get a good idea. It's like, let's go. Let's go to Mexico. Let's ride horses. Let's do something. So that was it that day. So let's ride horses. So Eric comes over and he's sober, and he picks us up and we go out to the country. And I don't even know how we found this place or how my buddy Troy knew about it or whatever, but we roll up and there's these horses, beautiful farm, beautiful country. We're drunk as hell. I see this like, what next to the horses, there's this cage, and there's a full-grown Bengal tiger pacing back and forth in this cage. So I'm like, what the heck, dude? There's a tiger here. I walk over to the tiger, put my hand up to the cage. It's licking my hand. I can't believe it, It's a nice trained tiger, and I'm just hammered. I stick my hand into the cage and pet the tiger, and the tiger just immediately bites my thumb, puts two teeth through my thumb, and starts trying to drag me into the cage. So the tiger's pulling me into the cage. I got my feet up on this cage, and my arm is in the cage, in the tiger's mouth, and it's like I'm sober like that, you know what I mean? It's like you get bit by a tiger, you're gonna sober up quick, My buddy Eric comes running over and he's punching the tiger in the face as hard as he can. I'm pulling, and finally the end of my thumb pops off, and I go falling backwards. And you should hear my buddy Eric tell it. Eric is he's a Multnomah County Circuit Court judge now, and he tells this story. It's a lot funnier from him because he's sober, but he likes to tell the story in the courtroom sometimes, just as set an example for these idiots like me and embarrass me. But Eric's a good guy, and he helped me get over to the house, and we knocked on the door, and this lady's like, "Who are you?" And I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Lady, your tiger bit me," and she's like, "Oh," she goes, "You're trespassing on my property. I don't even know who you are." And she gives me a bowl to bleed in, and and I'm indignant because who are you to talk to me that way? It's your tiger that bit me, and not even conscientious to the fact that I'm on her property. on a weekday at like, lunchtime when people are working. It's just go to the hospital, bleeding in the bowl. My mom works in the hospital. My mom is, used to seeing us in the emergency room. We roll up and she's, oh my gosh, she's like, "How much have you had to drink?" She doesn't even care about my thumb anymore. She's just like, "How much have you had to drink?" And I'm like, "Two, two, mom. I just had two drinks." And she's like, You're so full of it." But that's it. I mean, lies just fall out of my mouth. And I think alcoholics have it like in our DNA that the answer is always two. And I don't know where that comes from, but man, you ask anybody, that's drunk, "How much have you had?" "Dude, I've only had a couple drinks." That's the answer that you get almost every time. And I got surgery and everything, but here's the problem with this thing is like the lady right before we left, she said, "Don't tell him it was a tiger. It's already bit like three people." And I'm not a narc, right? I learned that from my rap music. Okay, I'm not going to narc anybody out, even a tiger. So I was like, all right. So I get there, I'm in the hospital, I have surgery. Animal control comes over, the officers from animal control were called, and so I told them it was a dog that bit me, and so they're like, they got to find this dog, right? I had all these rabies shots and everything from this supposed dog bite that I got. Now, if I would have told him it was a tiger, I don't know what kind of shots I would have got, but it probably would have been different. So I go with this animal control for like the next 3 days with this cast on my hand, and we're cruising all over trying to find this dog. And it's just that, I mean, that's the next 3 days of my life I'm spending looking for a fake dog, because that's just the kind of crap that I do. That's my life. It's just one mess after the next, but I'm still having fun. I'm still having like their consequences. And this was a big one because this was my senior year, varsity football, ready to play. Now I'm like, have a cast on my hand. That was actually a pretty big consequence for me. Doesn't seem like much, but it was a big deal for me. And that really, took a bite out of that was one of those times when I'm like, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe I do have, maybe I am what they say. Maybe I am an alcoholic. I don't know. But I got out of high school. I graduated. I don't know how I graduated, but I graduated. I immediately got arrested again. I went and this became a pattern now that I was going to go to college. I had good grades. Everything was set up for me to do something in life. I was given the gifts and the school and the parenting and the everything to do something with my life, and I'm not doing nothing with my life. I'm like just an absolute party animal every single day. I got a job, of course. I'm working. I'm dating this girl. I get home from work every day. I smoke weed all day at work just to get through the day, and I come home and I'm just so thirsty, and I always got a half rack. I had this girlfriend, she'd always have a half rack of Budweiser in the fridge for me, and she'd have a half rack of Coors Light for her. And every day I'd come home and get a cold glass out and drink 3 glasses of Budweiser as soon as every single day, and I can taste it right now. I mean, I love the taste of alcohol. I mean, one of my favorite sayings was I never had a drink I didn't like. I mean, I love alcohol, any kind of alcohol, bring it on. But the real reason that I drank, which I come to find out once I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, was I drank for the effect. I drank for the effect. I have a disease. I'm powerless. I have no control over the amount. I can never get enough. And that's how it is every single night. So every single night, I don't know if I'm going to drink that half rack and I'm going to play video games and go to bed and life's going to be fine, or if I'm going to go out and party and get arrested. I don't know what's going to happen. Every day is different. Some mornings I wake up in jail. Some mornings I wake up in bed. I mean, it's just my life has turned into just like that. And this girl and I, we were living in this bad part of town. There was this guy, this neighbor, this family. They seemed nice on the surface, but underneath the surface, they were doing a lot of meth. And there was a lot of violence in that family, and there was a lot of abuse in that family. And I was but we were friends, they were neighbors, whatever. And I was over there one day, and it was this guy Lance was like, "Hey, dude, I'm gonna murder my drug dealer Raj, but before I do, I need you to go get some meth for me if you don't mind. And I said, oh, well, I'm not really into those white drugs, but I just like to drink. I'll smoke weed once in a while if I have to. And he goes, you don't have to, just do me a quick fit. It won't be nothing, no big deal. So I go get him some meth and bring it back, and he goes, well, snort this one little line. So I snort this line of meth, and man, a career was born. I was like, holy smokes. I was like, I went for the next 3 days. I told everybody I knew how great meth was. I mean, you're like wired. You're like, I was wide awake. I felt like $1 million. I was drinking, 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 drinking. I mean, you could drink all day. You never black out. It's like I'm still coherent. I could take a shower. Start peeking out the blinds a little bit for the yard narcs and stuff. But, other than that, I mean, it's like, wow, this is like phenomenal. And so as a career was born. I'm like, well, shoot, I could sell this stuff. I've always been a little entrepreneurial. So next thing you know, I'm out selling meth, and alcoholism is just going strong. I get up in the morning, I drink a 40 ouncer of whatever I could get, whatever I can scrounge together. I'll drink that 40 ouncer of whatever, just to get going in the morning. And then I go to Albertsons, which is a grocery store, and then I get a 5 liter box of wine, which is Zinfandel for $8.99. And it's like, I can't remember like what proof it is or whatever, but it was like I figured out the math, okay? Between the money and the alcohol percentage and everything, like a 5 liter box of wine for 8 9 is like the best bang for your buck that you could get. And I'd drink that all afternoon. That would be like my afternoon thing. I'd go get my meth. I'd go get my baggies and scale and get everything, sorted out. And now I'm dealing meth. And this was like actually kind of kept me out of trouble for a while because I'm a bar fighter. I'm the guy dragging the bartender over the counter when he quits serving me. I'm the guy just walking up to people that I don't like and spitting in their face and starting a big ruckus all the time. I've got arrested for inciting a riot, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and it stuck once. So it's just and it's not even that I'm violent necessarily. It's just I want to have fun. I want to have fun, and I want everyone to have fun with me. Even if you're not having fun, we're having fun. And that's just how I drink. That's how I party. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. But I'm out there, and I'm selling this drug, and I'm also selling this other stuff on the side too, this stuff called LSD. And the LSD is kind of what got me in trouble. But I was out, and my dog got out. My dog keeps getting out, okay, because I'm not a good dog caretaker. His girlfriend bought me this stupid dog that bit all my friends and chewed all our shoes. And I mean, this dog was a total nightmare. But he'd get taken to the pound when I'm out, dealing drugs, come home, get a ticket for dog at large, right? And then never pay the ticket. So I get arrested one night for a dog, and I wasn't even arrested. But they took my ID. They saw that I had a warrant out for my arrest for this dog at large ticket that I hadn't paid. So basically, my dog got me arrested, but I had like all these drugs on me. I had bags and bags and bags of like methamphetamine. For some reason, I had heroin that night. And I got thrown in jail for that. So I left the country. I left the country because I already had this other ongoing investigation for this LSD drug dealing situation. I was already in deep, 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 deep trouble. And I didn't want to go to prison. I didn't want to have a boyfriend. I like women. I didn't want to have a cellie. I didn't want to have any of that. I just didn't feel like I was going to be a great prison guy. You know what I mean? I mean, jail, that's one thing, and I can scrap and everything, but prison, no alcohol, no drugs. That's what I thought at the time. Now I find out that, these guys are dealing drugs from prison. I mean, you can do anything you want in prison now, I guess. But anyway, so I fled the country. I went to Jamaica. That's where I went. I went to go live in Jamaica so I wouldn't get arrested. Because I mean, I was like dead to rights, dead to rights. They had me. But for some reason, they didn't have me. They were going after bigger fish. They were trying to get me to roll. I can't, and I had a pretty significant drug dealing operation going on by this time. I mean, I was dealing with Mexican mafia. I had the Hells Angels. I mean, this wasn't no, backyard barbecue that I was rolling with. Came back to the States, went to treatment, tried to get my life together, got out of treatment, got sober, got drunk, got to treatment, got sober, got drunk, went to treatment, got sober, got drunk. I mean, it was just like while this investigation's going on, I'm in and out of treatment, I'm in and out of AA. And then now, I mean, I can't deal drugs. I mean, nobody will touch me with a 10-foot pole. Everyone knows got this huge investigation going. Nothing really I can do about that, and I can't hold a job down because I can't stay sober, and I'm just drinking day in and day out. And at this point, this is where the fun stopped. Fun's over. I'm homeless now, nowhere to live. Nobody wants me around. Treatment centers won't take me. I'm living on the streets. I'm repoing cars for old drug dealers every once in a while that want me to, take care of somebody or something. I'm doing things that only the people that live on the streets, understand. I'm at that level, and it's brutal. It's brutal. It's like just scrounging money together. And I was like, Bill Wilson, that part, that we read, and then you go on to hear his story, and it's kind of like, I mean, he's a low bottom drunk physically. Um, but like I never even got off the starting blocks. I never got a career. I never got anything. But when I felt like had arrived, like Bill Wilson talks about in his story, was when I was like, I'm in the strip club. I'm dealing meth to strippers, and I feel like I have arrived. I mean, that's like that was like the best I could do. That was when I was at the peak of my, excellence, was when I was at the strip club dealing meth, had my VIP table, had tons of cash in my pocket, and I'm a piece of crap. I'm a criminal. I'm a piece of crap. But that's how I was feeling at the time. And so anyway, so yeah, now I'm homeless. I'm on the street. I'm dirty. I got crabs. Let me tell you what, if you haven't had crabs, that's a fun one. That's a fun one, especially when you're not like taking care of it. That's pretty brutal. And yeah, I won't even get into that whole story. There's a whole fun episode there. But anyway, I was one night I got 12 stepped by this old boy at the treatment center that knew me, and I've been in and out of AA, but I was at rock bottom. I mean, I was just at rock bottom. And he's like, you can go to Alaska, and there's this place. It's like this work camp farm, treatment center. And I've never been to Alaska. I'm in Oregon. It hardly ever even snows where I live in Oregon. It's like a snow day is like a big deal, right? And he's like, here's the thing, like you can't stay sober. So if you go to Alaska and you want to drink, you're going to have to walk through 10 feet of snow for 100 miles past wolves and bears to even get to a liquor store. So like it's perfect for a guy like you. And I was like, dude, sign me up. Anything's better than the life that I'm living right now, because I'm miserable. I'm not suicidal, but I'm like, I'm not far away from it either. I'm miserable. I'm at my life. I hate my life. I hate the way that I treat my family. I hate the way that I'm not there for my younger sisters. I hate the way that I was, chewed out my grandmother for telling me to stop drinking. My grandmother, and I'm cussing at her because she, tried to lecture me about my drinking. It's things like that. I mean, I just feel smaller than small. I just feel like the biggest loser, and can't hold down a job because I can't quit drinking. I mean, I can't draw a sober breath to save my life. So I jumped on a flight. I jumped on a one-way flight to Alaska. I got taken up there. They pick me up at the airport. It's March in Alaska. Let me tell you, March in Alaska, it's about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like minus 30 degrees Celsius or something like that. The wind is blowing like 40 knots. Okay. So you got this, it feels like it's like 100 degrees below zero outside. That's how it felt to me. I had Marlboros, a pack of carton of Marlboros, and the clothes on my back. I drank two Alaskan Ambers. That was my last drink. Two Alaskan Ambers, and I didn't even get into the whole drug story about how much drugs I did, and who cares really. I mean, I you could call me. I qualify as an addict all day long. Loved cocaine so much, but meth was like after alcohol was my favorite. But and I don't know that I could have quit meth, but I did. I mean, I did. When the cops were on me, I mean, I quit meth. I could not quit alcohol. I guess maybe that's the difference. Like I could not stop drinking. So they threw me in the detox, okay? I'm in the detox for 4 or 5 days. I get out, and this is a bunch of homeless people in this treatment center, okay? It's a work farm treatment center. It's like a model that, old model that they still do here and there, but now it's like insurance driven that these kind of things aren't really around, but it's kind of more like sober living. But you have to get a sponsor and you have to, do all this stuff. And these guys 12 step me. I mean, it was like I went to these AA meetings. This one group called the Northern Lights Recovery Group in Wasilla, Alaska. I went to the meeting and these guys were on me. They rolled up and they were like, "Do you got a sponsor? Do you got a sponsor?" And if you're new, I'm telling you, man, get a strong sponsor. Don't get a weak sponsor. Don't get a buddy. Don't get your best friend. Don't get someone that, just they're afraid to tell you anything. That's the last, those people will kill you if they're afraid to tell you the truth. Because here's the thing, and I don't know about CA, I know very little about it, but in AA, and I assume it's the same, that it's not all things to all people. Okay? It's just not. In CA, I understand it's addiction and alcoholism, but in AA, it's just alcohol. But obviously, we tell about drugs in our stories, as long as we have alcoholism. But it's not all things to all people. And most of the people that come in the rooms, they don't even know the first thing about anything, but they think they know everything, right? So what we do is this is the last house on the block, right? And so there's nowhere else to go. I mean, they can go back out and drink if they want, but there's nowhere else to go. It's the last house on the block. And I think that we're short selling people if we don't tell them how it is, right? And these guys told me how it was. They didn't water it down at all. They're like, sit down, be quiet during the meeting. And if I wasn't quiet, they'd turn around in the meeting and go, shh, like rude, totally rude. And then after the meeting, Ron, this big Ron guy, would come up to me. He's an electrician. He weighed like 300 pounds. He'd go, "You're selfish." And he goes, "You're not going to stay sober, but the guy behind you might if you just shut your mouth during the meeting. It's rude to be talking while other people are talking during the meeting." And I was disruptive. I mean, I didn't like, most of those people. I didn't like being in AA. It was like a bunch of old, just old people that, didn't have a life. And I was just so judgmental, just and then I'd get judgmental with my mouth in the meeting. And I told you how I drank. Well, I'm the same way sober. I'm just mouthing off to people and I'm talking to them while they're sharing from the podium. And I'm disrupting the whole meeting for other people. I'm ruining it for other people. And like nowadays, like in my home group, if someone's doing that, you will give them a chance. We'll give them a number of meetings to simmer down or whatever. But I've personally escorted people out of our meeting if they don't allow other people to enjoy the meeting. And that's how I was. And these guys were on me, dude. They were on me. And thank God, thank God, because I go to other meetings and in Anchorage, and they'll let people disrupt the meeting the whole time. I mean, they just know people are afraid to say anything to anybody sometimes, right? And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's our traditions. I don't think that's carrying the message. I don't think it's we're the weak the AA and CA and NA, and every A is only as strong as the weakest link in the chain. And we have to not be afraid to say something when something is amiss. And these guys were not at all. And I wasn't the easiest person to talk to. I'm a guy from the street who's like putting up this hard front. And I'll tell you, when these guys came up to me asking me if I needed a sponsor and giving me crap for not having one, they're coming up to me and saying these things. And I'm leaving out a lot of cuss words because I don't swear from the podium at AA meetings. My sponsor taught me that, unless I let one slip out once in a while, but I try not to. And they're coming at me, and it's like the first time a girl stuck her tongue in my ear. It was like I was like, whoa, but at the same time, I kind of liked it and that's how it was in AA. It was like I wanted nothing what you guys had. I didn't like you guys, but I just, there was something there. There was some, like, I could relate to you guys. I could relate to the ladies. I could relate to the drinking. I could relate to the fighting, the shooting up the signs, the getting in trouble, the screwing up your family, being, unkind to those that you love, and feeling that shame and that guilt, and knowing that you need to fix it and not being able to fix it, and waking up every day with the same old plan to be different, and then not executing on that plan, and then the same night feeling guilty about it, and then you're having to drink that away because you can't change, and you're supposed to be there for them and you can't, and just day after day. I mean, I could relate to that, and I'm like, these guys got something. I mean, they're sober, and they have like new pickup trucks, and they have good jobs, and they got money, and some of them even had a girlfriend, or a wife, for God's sake. And that was like, I couldn't believe it. And I hadn't had a girlfriend or anything in a long time. I mean, it was like when you're homeless, it's not the best pickings. You know what I mean? And I was seeing now, I was starting to see ladies again, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, Wasilla, Alaska is interesting to say the least. There's a lot of alcoholism there. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of, so there's, I mean, this it's a pretty active little recovery community, right? And we're 12 stepping, and we're going bowling together, and we're going out to the movies together, and everything else. And like, I'm starting to see women, and I'm starting to, like, feel better, and things are starting to move, and I'm working the steps with a sponsor, and then I kind of took it too far, and I'm like talking to these ladies all the time and forgetting that I'm supposed to be talking to the guys in the meeting. And so they started, my sponsor started to call me and drool, because I'm drooling on all the girls in the meeting. And then it was, then it was just drool, because I'm Andrew now. It's just drool. That was my nickname, right? And that's what, like, this is a good thing, okay? For not for me, but for them, for the meeting, for the women in the meeting. This is a good thing. And this is what the men who are actual men need to do, is to go to these boys like I was and slap them around a little bit when they're doing this crap at the meeting. And that's what they were doing to me. And then it was drool boy. I'm like in my mid 20s, and my nickname is drool boy. Okay. And I'm not doing anything. I'm not actually like 13th stepping these girls. I'm not, but I'm just not there for the meeting anymore. You know what I mean? And they're calling me out on it. And I think that's critical. And I do the same today, to the new guys that come in. And then I explain to them, I put my arm around them after I give them a nickname like Shallow Dave or SpongeBob Crank Lab, or, whatever. I mean, we got nicknames for everybody. I'll put my arm around him, and I'll be like, look, man, I was just like you, but that's not okay in here. That's not all right. It's not okay to be hitting on the new girl in the meeting. It's not okay to even innocently, I'm just talking to her, or we're friends, or we knew each other before, or whatever. Give the new girl or guy, trust me, we got ladies that do it too, a chance. Give them a chance to get sober. Give them a chance to not be inundated with this extracurricular stuff. Because I'll tell you, it's pretty hard to be in a relationship when you're new and work steps and call a sponsor and listen to your sponsor, because you're just thinking about that other person all the time. And that's kind of the way it is. So I was finally kind of stopped doing that a little bit. I was getting better, and they were just molding me, and I got commitments at all my meetings. I'm the chair setup guy, I'm this, I'm that. Now I'm back in college because AA is allowing me to, live some dreams that I've had. And I dropped out of college when I was drunk, obviously, to pursue a career in drug dealing. And now I'm back in college. But my roommate, who was a corrections officer, came home one night and handed me this piece of paper, because he had done a search on the national database for me. Even though he knew me and he knew I was he knew my history, but I think he was trying to help me out. He showed me that I was wanted for felonies in 4 states. And so now I had a problem because I don't know about you guys, but when I have something really, really bad happen to me, I just put my head in the sand and I'm like, I pretend it's like it's going to go away, you know? And that's why I have this fear of impending doom all the time. Like I just know the other shoe is going to drop and my life's going to be over. And in this case, it was because he gave me this thing and it's like, okay, it didn't go away. You know, all these felony charges are still pending. And so now I got to face the music and I call my sponsor and I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, well, you know, you got to make amends. I'm like, I'm not gonna, how am I gonna make amends? You know, I'm not gonna be able to make amends from prison. And he goes, you need to make amends to society, bud. And you got caught and you got to go face the consequences. I mean, you do the crime, you're gonna have to do the time. He goes, if you get, you're gonna have to just do it. And he goes, don't worry, there'll be 12-step opportunities in prison. My sponsor. I mean, he wasn't trying to make me feel better. Okay. He doesn't care about my feelings. My feelings will get me drunk over and over and over again, and I will never stay sober. I have an uncle that passed away because that's what his mother did to him. You know, he was like a total loser. And all she did was try to make him feel better and give him money and a place to live. And, you know, I mean, that just kills us. That kind of behavior just kills us, and it shouldn't be done in AA, you know? And anyway, so he told me what to do. He said, I need to get an attorney and then do what the attorney tells you to do. And so I got an attorney, and I got the attorney from my buddy Eric, the circuit court judge, who knew this attorney that was a father of a guy that we played football with in high school. And so he had kind of a soft spot in his heart. He was somebody that we knew. And so we started this process, you know, and I did all the stuff he asked, and I got all these letters and I got all this stuff. And like I started doing this, I started seeing it. Like I had AA people, I had bosses, I had treatment center people, I had coworkers, I had other students, I had family members, all willing to write me letters telling the court what I was doing and how well I was doing and who I was helping. And I was sponsoring guys, I was working with guys at the treatment center, I was going to work early and staying late. I was giving the boss a full day's work for a full day's pay instead of what I used to do, which is steal time, you know, which is just like any other kind of stealing. And as a result, I was feeling better. I was doing better. I was making the world a better place. I was serving someone other than myself. And so anyway, the judge, the attorney is at the court with the letters, and right before my case, my hearing, there's this other guy that was Andrew back in the day. This guy was doing meth. He was violent. He had assaults. He had, you know, the whole thing. You know, same thing. Just me, just not sober, right? And he got, I don't remember what he got. He got quite a few years sentence. I got nothing. The judge read all these letters. The judge figured out that I had been through treatment, that I'd been sober a year outside of treatment, that I was working with alcohol, that I was basically rehabilitated, and he let all the charges drop. He said, "All right, you're out, you're free. You're free to go. You're clearly, there's no point in throwing you in prison to try to rehabilitate you when clearly you're already rehabilitated, you know?" And I believe that's God. Truly believe God wants me to serve a higher purpose. Because I should still be in prison today. Okay? Today. I'm 28 years sober. That's how much was on these felony charges. That's how much time I had on these felony charges. That's what I had hanging over my head. Okay. So obviously, God has a plan for me, right? And He has a plan for all of us. But most of the time, excuse me, we're we're just not willing to let His plan happen, right? We're not willing to let His plan happen because we got a better idea. I have a better idea, you know. And this story that I tell it for myself so that I remember that God has a better plan than Andrew's plan. Always, every time, you know. And how do I get to God's plan? How exactly do I figure out what God's plan is for me? Well, it's not my job to figure it out. What's my job is to fit myself to be a maximum service to God and to my fellows. That's my job. That's it, you know? And how do I do that? Well, I do that by maintaining a relationship and growing a spiritual relationship with the power greater than myself, right? And I do that by going to meetings like this and saying yes to AA and to sponsoring guys and to working. And that nothing will, if you're not sponsoring people, if you're not taking people through the book, if you're not spending actual time with them, and I'm not talking about 5 minutes after the meeting, one, two, three in the back room, because that ain't nothing. I'm talking about spending time with people. This is the critical thing. This is what we were made to do. This is it. This is the juice. This is everything. The world becomes a better place, right? And I've seen so many circumstances where, you know, people's kids in trouble and everything else in AA, right? And what's my job? My job is to go work with their kids. My job is to go work with God's kids. My job is to help families because I can't always help my own, and my family can be a wreck at times. So my job is to fix your family so that you can fix mine. And so that's what we continue to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? That's the whole thing here. And sometimes I lose sight of that because now I have a college degree, I have businesses, I have success, I have money, I have a amazing fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have these two beautiful, perfect kids, 12 and 14 years old, a boy and a girl, and they're playing the violin and the guitar and they're jocks like me. At least one of them is, and she's and it's the my daughter. She's like a year-round, competitive softball player, and she just kicks butt, and she's just an awesome kid. And my son is so great and funny. He's got such a great sense of humor, and he's just hilarious. These gifts are wonderful. They're a function of these actions that we take and continue to take day in and day out. But I don't ever want to think that the gifts are the program, right? They're a result of the program. But when people begin to focus on the gifts of the program, the gifts fade away. See, you take your eye off of doing the stuff that we do in here because maybe I don't need to go to as many meetings now because my kids need me at home, right? And there's some truth to that statement, but I go to as many meetings now as I did before I had kids. I just reconfigure my schedule sometimes. I don't make all the conferences I used to go to. I'm not gone 4 nights, 5 nights a week in AA meetings like I used to be. Now I'm like, I have 2 or 3 committed nighttime meetings, and then I make it up with noon meetings. I'm in the book with sponsees when it's not interfering with my kid. It's just different when you have kids, but it's still, I'm just as active as I ever was. I just modified the schedule because kids are a commitment too. But I see these people that take it too far, right? They're like, they're not going to meetings or they're going to one meeting a week. They're not sponsoring anybody because my kids need me. Well, let me tell you, my kids don't need Andrew going to one meeting a week because Andrew becomes a complete asshole at one meeting a week. Andrew becomes this thing called a dry drunk when I don't work a program, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like the gifts are the gifts. But when I focus on, and I got a really nice boat, I got out in the salt water all the time. I mean, I got, I got. Why? Because I'm an alcoholic goofball. I grew up poor and now I got to have every toy known to mankind. I like to overcorrect a little bit. I'm nuts, right? If one's good, two's better, right? That hasn't changed. That's still me. That's still my personality. But I have to do the program first. That's first. Anything that comes in front of that, I'm going to lose, you know? And so I live in Anchorage, Alaska. I have this beautiful home and I live on the hillside and there's snow is like, I love it. I love it. The snow is piled up outside. Now I'm Norwegian, so that's not part of the reason. I mean, I like to go to Hawaii and Mexico, and I was in Argentina last year and stuff, but I like to live in the colder climates. I like our summer's like nice, but it's not like I'm not dying. You know what I mean? And it's just so absolutely beautiful. And the AA up here is wonderful. My life is tremendous, but it's not because of me. You know, it's not because of me. It's not because of anything I did. It's just I said yes to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. When my sponsor was telling me to get my butt up in the front row of the meeting, and I didn't want to because I just didn't want to because I know better, you know? But I finally surrendered and I went and sat in the front row of the meeting. Okay. Now I could have just said no. I could have been that rebellious little puke, but I said yes. You know, I went and sat in the front when I was new. Little things. It's those little tiny things. When a sponsor asks you to do something, it's not because it's not for them. It's for you, you know? And so I try even today. I'm 28 years of sobriety. I try to stay, you know, surrendered to sponsorship, surrendered and to be teachable because I'm alcoholic now as I ever was, you know, as the day I came in here. In fact, more probably. I'm probably a higher risk of drinking now than I was when I came in here, right? Because the heat's not on anymore. So I have to figure out how to stay surrendered, and I just do, you know. I'm just grateful to be here. I think my time's up. It's got to be up by now. So appreciate the time and for you listening.